So let's see what we have actually done. Let's go back to the solution. I will just close the modules folder and let's add the theme. If you right click on the themes logical solution folder here and hit add existing project, we will be able to see our project that we just created. So we are now in the source folder, and such projects, extension projects, are under orchard.web. And well, here are also the modules and themes folders. So not surprisingly, our theme will be under the themes folder. And good thing, our Dojo Course theme is actually indeed here. So I will just browse to the CS proj file and add that here. Now if you take a look at this, well, it's pretty similar to what we have seen with the theme machine. We also have a scripts folder, we also have a styles folder. Well, there is also some basic, there's a placeholder for the styles, for the CSS file as well. And we also have a views folder, but it's completely empty. We also have a theme.txt again, and a theme.png. Now, before seeing the other folders, let's dive a bit into the theme.txt file. First of all, now that we have created our theme project, let's do a manual build. As I've just hit F6 to build the whole solution, although that wouldn't be needed necessarily. And now if we go back to the site, after the web application restarts, once we open the themes page, we will be able to see that our theme is actually listed here. So that's good. Orchard has recognized that it's there. It has automatically discovered that a new extension was added, and we actually have this nice little new indicator here. So we see that there is some metadata displayed here, as we have already guessed, that comes from the theme.txt file. So we'll just go in there and edit it. Alright, so here we have the theme manifest file, our own, that was generated by the codegen command. And the name is, that's the same as the identifier of the theme, which is the project file's name. This is probably not something that we want to display to users, so let's make it nicer. Let's make it like it's not an identifier. So let's just remove these and add some spaces. Now our name is much nicer, just Dojo Course 2 theme. So let's see what happens if I refresh this page, and indeed the name is now displayed here a bit more nicely. So by changing the attributes of the theme.txt file, well, we can change what's displayed here, of course. But there is some more to the theme.txt than just some metadata that is displayed to the user. For example, here we have this base theme attribute, which by the way has a placeholder as the value here, which is a bit wrong. So let me just temporarily remove this, and let's enable the theme and let's see what happens. So I'm going here and setting our newly created theme as the current theme. Now, do remember that themes are extensions, just like modules. So that means that just as with modules, there can be multiple themes enabled at the same time, even though there can be just one current theme. Now, the current theme is the theme that drives the front end, but still multiple other themes can be enabled and can contribute to the final layout. In this case, despite I set our own theme as the current theme, the theme machine is still enabled. So if you would want to disable it, we can do it here. But let's first take a look at the front end. So now our theme is the current theme, and if we open the front end, what we see is, well, pretty much nothing. And that's right, because we haven't added any styling to our theme. So what we see here is the basic layout and all the basic HTML output that the various modules that build the current site or the current page have in their source base. So let's go back to the theme manifest and let's see what this magic base theme attribute here does. Now there can be some basic hierarchy between themes, and we can express this with the base theme attribute. If we specify the base theme here, and for the sake of this example, let's use the theme machine. So the theme machine that we have here, I will just copy its name and put here. If you use the base, if we use the theme machine as the base theme here, that will mean that the theme machine will be enabled when this, or needs to be enabled when this theme is enabled, and the theme machine will also run pretty much just as it would run if it would be the current theme. But if there are things that override what's in the theme machine in our theme, then those will take precedence. So basically what will happen that the theme machine will run, and then our theme will be able to override pieces of that. And if we go back to the site, that means that we should see the same that what we see with the theme machine. And that's indeed what happens. The base theme attribute can be very well used if you are, well, creating base themes. And base themes can be useful if you have a set of common styling or a set of common layout elements or some basic structuring that you want to utilize in multiple themes. That means on multiple websites. So you can build a common base theme and then build on top of that. That's actually quite a cool feature and can save you a lot of time. We at Lombiq have actually also developed a base theme. If you go to our GitHub page and search for base theme, well, we have even multiple ones, but the current one is what we call Pretty Good Bootstrap base theme. And well, there is also an example project for that. The Pretty Good Bootstrap base theme is, well, a base theme that uses Twitter's Bootstrap front-end framework or styling framework. It's specifically built as a base theme that you can use as a foundation for other themes to be built on. So it doesn't contain any useful styling, but it serves you as a developer to create your own custom styling for your website. But let's go back to the solution. And what else do we have in our theme? Well, we also have an assets folder and an assets.json file. What are these? There is a gulp-based or a gulp-using assets build pipeline now built into Orchard since a few versions ago, or probably just one version ago. That means that by default what you get is that you can write your styling not in CSS but in less, and it will be automatically compiled. I'm actually not sure whether this indeed works, so let's see. Well, just add something here like background color should be well, let's select something that will actually be visible, like blue-violet. And now our styles.css should be recompiled, but this doesn't happen. This isn't exactly working as it should, but no problem. We will just try this in the CSS file, just for now, just to see whether it works. So let's go back to the front end and do a hard refresh, and it actually didn't. Oh, it's styles.css. Okay. Let me create another CSS file here to demonstrate something. Let's create a new file here in the styles folder, and let's call it site.css. And now in this site.css, let's add this super simple background color declaration that will turn our site in this beautiful blue-violet color. And let's see what happens now if I reload the site. We should see something magical. Well, what happens now is that there was some recompilation in the background, and now we are back to the 90s. And that's good, because that's what we wanted. But let's take a minute to understand what happened. Now we see that our CSS file is actually loaded, but you can also see that since there's no other styling than the background color, probably that also means that no other CSS file, or at least not the CSS file from the theme machine, is loaded. And if we take a look at the source, well, by hitting Ctrl U, we see that the site.css file that was loaded here is indeed the one that's stored in our theme. But we didn't actually include that CSS file anywhere, so how could that happen? Well, let's remove this CSS file and let's see what happens, and probably that will give us some answers. I'm also hitting Ctrl-Shift-S, as in save all, because if we add or remove files, we also need to save the project files. And by the way, if we don't save the project files, Orchard's so-called dynamic compilation won't necessarily pick them up. Because, by the way, there is a cool thing called dynamic compilation in Orchard, which means that after code changes, you don't necessarily need to hit build to build manually, but you just refresh the page and Orchard will recompile what you have changed in the background. Now that we are back here, we see that the basic theme machine styling is again what's active here. And if we refresh the source view, we see that now the site.css file comes from the theme machine. So just by adding a site.css file to our theme, we could magically override the basic site.css file that comes from the theme machine. And that's pretty neat, because that means that if you have a base theme, you can add some basic files for styling, but the similar thing happens for templates as well, but that's a bit more complicated, we'll see. And you can override these pieces by piece. And still, by having the theme machine as the base theme, we can have everything that the theme machine offers and just override site.css if you like to have that.